Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd end up here, but after everything that's gone down, I feel like I need to get it all out. I don't even know if I'm looking for advice or just trying to make sense of it all. Anyway, here's my wife, Emily, and I have been together for 7 years, married for 3. We met through mutual friends at a party, and things moved fast. She was funny, outgoing, and always the center of attention. I was the quieter one, but she brought me out of my shell. Or at least, that's what I used to think. For the longest time, I thought we had a pretty solid marriage. We fought like any couple does, but it never felt like something we couldn't handle. We were both busy with work. I'm in IT, and she's in marketing, so our schedules didn't always line up. But we made it work, or so I thought. About 6 months ago, I noticed some small changes. Emily started staying out late with her friends, a lot more. She'd come home smelling like expensive perfume, not the one she wears, and when I asked about it, she'd laugh it off, saying it was just some girl from work she'd hugged goodbye. I wanted to believe her. You know how it is when you've been with someone for years, you don't want to question everything they do. But then, things started feeling off. At first, I tried to ignore it. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Emily was still her usual bubbly self around me, though it felt a little forced at times. She'd text me throughout the day, but I noticed something strange. Her phone was always on silent when she was home. She used to keep her phone on loud, but suddenly it was always face down on the coffee table or left in her purse. When I asked why, she brushed it off, saying work was stressing her out, and she just needed to disconnect. Then there were the nights out. What used to be once a month turned into every other weekend. She'd tell me she was going to have drinks with coworkers, mostly other women, as she'd always make a point to say, but sometimes she'd come home tipsy, talking about some new guy at work named Matt. She'd laugh about how he was so funny, always flirting with all the girls at the office. It didn't sit right with me, but I didn't want to be the overbearing, jealous husband. But the real red flag was the sex. We used to be intimate all the time, even if we were both busy. But for the last couple of months, she always had some excuse. She was tired, stressed, or not feeling well. And when we did have sex, it was like she wasn't really there. She'd fake it, and I knew it. But still, I didn't say anything. I convinced myself it was just a rough patch, that she was dealing with something at work and it'd pass. Then one night, everything changed. She was out again, another work thing, and I decided to try something that I never thought I'd do. I grabbed her iPad, which was synced with her phone, and opened her messages. I felt sick even before I saw anything. It's like my body knew what was coming, even if my mind wasn't ready. And then there it was. A text from Matt. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through their messages. It wasn't even like they were trying to be discreet. The texts were flirty, filled with inside jokes, and references to that night, like it was some shared secret. I read a few lines about how much fun they had at that bar a few weeks ago, and my stomach dropped. And then I saw it, a string of messages from just the night before. Last night was amazing, he'd written. Can't stop thinking about you. Emily's reply? Me too. Can't wait to do it again. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it'd burst out of my chest. I wanted to stop reading, but I couldn't. It was like watching a car crash. You know you shouldn't look, but you can't tear your eyes away. There were photos too. Nothing explicit, but definitely more than friendly. Selfies of them together at dinner, his arm casually draped around her shoulder, both of them smiling like they were on some romantic getaway. Then, a few texts later, a mention of the hotel room they'd rented. Just to talk, according to her message. Yeah, right. I felt this overwhelming wave of nausea hit me. My wife, my fucking wife, had been lying to my face for months. And there I was, sitting in our living room, in the home we shared, finding out through some chat history that she had been sleeping with this guy behind my back. My first instinct was to smash the iPad against the wall. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the screen, frozen. I don't even know how long I sat there, but eventually, I heard the sound of the front door opening. Emily was home. She came in, laughing on the phone with someone, completely oblivious to the fact that her whole double life had just unraveled right in front of me. I couldn't stand to look at her, but I knew I had to confront her. I could hear her voice in the hallway, still giggling and making plans with someone, probably Matt. It was like she wasn't even living in the same reality as me, completely unaware of what I had just uncovered. She walked into the living room, phone in hand, and her eyes landed on me. "Hey, babe," she said, acting like everything was normal. She put her phone in her bag and gave me this casual smile, like she wasn't carrying the weight of a massive lie. I wanted to scream at her right then and there, but instead I stayed quiet, holding the iPad up in my hand. "What's this?" I asked, my voice barely steady. I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me, but I was trying so damn hard to keep it together. Emily's face changed in an instant. She looked at the iPad, and I saw this flash of panic in her eyes. But she quickly masked it with this fake calm, like she was trying to play it cool. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice tight. I tapped the screen, opening the messages. "Matt? The hotel? Can't wait to do it again. What the fuck, Emily?" Her mouth opened, but nothing came out for a second. Then she laughed, like this whole thing was some kind of joke. "Oh my god, are you seriously snooping through my messages? That's such an invasion of privacy." She crossed her arms, suddenly acting like she was the victim here. "Privacy? You're gonna lecture me on privacy after screwing some guy behind my back?" I could feel the blood rushing to my face, my voice getting louder. She was standing there, still trying to play it off like I was the one in the wrong. "Matt's just a friend," she said, rolling her eyes like I was overreacting. "You're being ridiculous. We've hung out a few times, sure, but it's nothing like what you're thinking." "Nothing?" I spat. "You're literally talking about how amazing last night was. How you can't wait to do it again. What am I supposed to think?" Her face twisted in frustration, and she let out this dramatic sigh. "Fine," she said, throwing her hands up. "We kissed, all right? Once. It was stupid, it didn't mean anything, and I regretted it immediately. But you're blowing this way out of proportion." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She wasn't even trying to come clean. She was standing there, staring me dead in the eye, still lying. I had the proof in my hand, and she was treating me like I was the one making a big deal out of nothing. Her words hit me like a slap to the face. "A kiss? Really?" Was she actually trying to minimize everything after I'd just read through her affair, photo by photo, text by text? I felt the heat rising in my chest, but underneath that anger was this crushing sense of betrayal. "Do you think I'm stupid, Emily?" I asked, my voice breaking a little. "I've seen everything. The messages, the photos, the fucking hotel room. You didn't just kiss him. Stop lying." Her face changed again, but this time she looked annoyed, like she was tired of keeping up the act. She crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe. "Fine, you know what? Yeah, I slept with him. Happy now?" She said it so casually, like it wasn't the bombshell that just destroyed our entire marriage. "But it's not like it meant anything. You've been so distant lately, and I needed something more. I needed someone who actually paid attention to me." My stomach churned. It was like the ground beneath me was crumbling, and I was just free falling into this pit of despair. All those nights she stayed out, all those lies she spun, it was all true. She'd been fucking this guy for months, and now she was just shrugging it off, blaming me for her decisions. "Are you serious right now?" I asked, incredulous. "You're blaming me? I've been busting my ass at work to make sure we have a good life. You think I'm distant? Maybe because every time I tried to talk to you, you were out with your friends or glued to your phone." Emily scoffed, shaking her head. "It's not like that, and you know it. You've been checked out for months. What was I supposed to do? Just sit around and wait for you to notice me?" Her words cut deeper than I expected. Was she right? Had I been distant? I thought I was doing everything I could to provide for us, to keep things stable, But maybe I had been focusing too much on work. Still, that didn't justify her cheating. She could have talked to me, told me she wasn't happy, anything but this. I ran my hands through my hair, pacing around the room like a caged animal. You could have said something, Emily. You could have told me how you felt instead of going behind my back. She rolled her eyes again, like I was missing the point. I tried. But you never listened. And it just happened, okay? It's not like I planned to cheat. I stood there, staring at her, feeling like I didn't even know who this woman was anymore. The love of my life had turned into someone I couldn't recognize, someone who was cold, detached, and unapologetic for ripping my heart out. Did you even feel guilty? I asked quietly. She hesitated, and for a second I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd show some kind of remorse. But then she shrugged. At first, yeah. But after a while, I don't know. Things with Matt just made me feel alive again. You wouldn't understand. And that was it. I was done. I couldn't listen to any more of her excuses or hear her try to justify why cheating was somehow my fault. The woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with didn't exist anymore. I took a deep breath, trying to ground myself in the reality of the situation. I needed to think clearly, but every moment felt like a roller coaster of emotions: rage, betrayal, sorrow. I could feel my heart racing, the walls closing in on me. Emily, I said, forcing myself to keep my voice steady, I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't even recognize you. You've changed so much, and it feels like you've already made your choice. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What are you saying? You can't be serious. We can work through this. I can end things with Matt. Just give me a chance. A chance? The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Did she really think this could just be swept under the rug? You've already made your choice, Emily, I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. You chose to be with him instead of talking to me. You chose betrayal over honesty. That's not something I can just forget. She stepped forward, desperation seeping into her voice. But I love you. We can fix this. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Just please. I cut her off, shaking my head. Love? Is that what you call it? You think love is sneaking around, lying, and deceiving the person you're supposed to care about? Love doesn't treat someone like this. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I could see the tears pooling in her eyes, but honestly, I didn't know if I felt sorry for her or just angry that she was still trying to play the victim. I need time to think, I said, my voice firm. I can't just pretend everything is okay because you want it to be. You've shattered this trust, and I don't know if it can ever be rebuilt. She opened her mouth, probably to plead some more, but I couldn't take it. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. I'm staying with my brother for a while. I need space. I walked out, not even looking back, because I knew if I did, I'd get sucked back into her excuses and manipulations. I had to go before I changed my mind, before the memories of our life together made me second-guess everything. As I stepped into the cool night air, the weight of everything settled onto my shoulders. I felt hollow and broken, like I'd just lost a part of myself. But at the same time, there was this flicker of clarity. I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies, no matter how much I loved her once. I needed to find out who I was again, apart from the person who had been deceived. I needed to heal. What was next? I didn't know. But for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of determination. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I would figure out how to move forward. Staying with my brother was a blur. I was grateful for the distraction. He kept me busy with game nights, late-night talks, and all the things that reminded me of who I used to be. But in the quiet moments, when I was alone with my thoughts, the pain crept back in. I thought about Emily, about our life, the dreams we shared. It was like a constant ache that wouldn't fade. After a few days, I couldn't avoid it any longer. I had to face the reality of what happened. I grabbed my phone, my heart racing as I dialed my best friend, Jake. He'd always been my rock, and I needed someone to help me process this mess. When he answered, I filled him in on everything: the affair, the confrontation, my decision to leave. I could hear the disbelief in his voice. "Dude, I can't believe she did that to you. You deserve better, man." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "I know. But it still hurts. I thought we had something real, you know? Now, it feels like everything was a lie." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Have you talked to her since you left?" I let out a frustrated sigh. "No, and I'm not sure I want to. What's the point? She's already shown me who she is. But you need closure, man. Even if you decide to move on, you deserve to hear her side without all the drama." I thought about it. Maybe Jake was right. Maybe I needed to confront this head on. After a few days of mulling it over, I sent Emily a text asking if we could meet. To my surprise, she agreed almost immediately. When I walked into the cafe where we'd decided to meet, my heart pounded in my chest. I spotted her at a table, looking smaller than I remembered. She was fidgeting with her coffee cup, and I could see the remnants of mascara from her earlier tears. "Hey," she said softly as I sat down, avoiding eye contact. "Hey," I replied, my voice a little shaky. I didn't want to come off as angry, but it was hard to hide the hurt. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us searching for the right words. Finally, she broke the tension. "I'm sorry, you know. For everything." I looked her in the eyes, searching for sincerity. "You don't get to just say that, Emily. You shattered my trust. I still don't understand how you could do that." "I know," she said, tears welling up again. "I messed up. I was feeling lost and stupid, and I didn't handle it the right way. I was selfish." I felt a flicker of empathy, but it quickly faded. "You could have talked to me. We could have worked through it. But instead you chose him." "I know. I was scared, and I didn't want to hurt you. But I hurt you anyway, and I'm so sorry. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone." The honesty in her voice struck a chord. Maybe she was genuinely remorseful, but that didn't change what had happened. I had to protect myself. "I appreciate you saying that, but I need time to process this. I don't think we can go back to how things were. Not after everything." She nodded, her gaze dropping to the table. "I understand. I just hope you find it in your heart to forgive me someday." I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe that forgiveness would come easily, but right now, it felt impossible. "I don't know if I can. I'm still trying to figure things out for myself." As we sat there, the weight of our conversation pressed heavily on both of us. I realized that this was part of my healing process, facing her, voicing my pain, and reclaiming my narrative. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was starting to see a glimmer of hope for my future, even if it was still uncertain. When I left the cafe, the air felt lighter. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure: I was going to be okay. I was stronger than I'd realized, and this wasn't the end. It was just a new beginning. As the days turned into weeks, the initial shock of everything began to fade, but the journey toward healing was anything but linear. I took time to focus on myself, going for long bike rides, reconnecting with friends, and diving into hobbies I had neglected. I even started seeing a therapist, which turned out to be one of the best decisions I could have made. Talking through my feelings, processing the betrayal, and learning to set boundaries felt empowering. I started to realize that the most painful part of all this wasn't just losing Emily. It was the loss of the future I thought we were building together. It was the life I envisioned, the dreams I'd shared with her, that had come crashing down. But each day, I became a little more comfortable with the idea of redefining what my future could look like, without her. Eventually, I had to face Emily again. A couple of weeks after our cafe meeting, she reached out, asking if we could talk again. I hesitated, but I knew I had to confront the past to truly move on. So we met up in a park, a neutral ground that felt less charged than the cafe. When I saw her, she looked different, more vulnerable, perhaps. She wore a simple hoodie and jeans, her hair pulled back, almost like she was trying to hide. "Hey," she said softly as I approached. Hey, I replied, feeling a mix of apprehension and determination. We walked for a while in silence before I spoke up. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I wanted to talk about us. She nodded, her expression serious. I understand if you don't want anything to do with me anymore. I miss you. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. Look, I won't pretend I'm over everything yet. You broke my trust, and it's going to take time to rebuild anything, if that's even possible. I get it, she said, looking down at her feet. I never wanted to hurt you. I was just so wrapped up in my own issues that I lost sight of what mattered. I paused, considering her words. And that's the problem, Emily. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a series of choices you made, and those choices hurt me deeply. She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I know. I don't expect forgiveness right away, or even at all. I just wanted to say that I'm genuinely sorry for everything. I hope you can find happiness, even if it's without me. Hearing her say that was tough. I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me. Thank you, I said finally, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to focus on myself right now. I can't promise anything. Maybe one day we can be friends, but I'm not there yet. She looked up, a glimmer of hope in her eyes, but I saw the reality too. It was a moment of acceptance, and it felt like we were both closing a chapter of our lives. After that meeting, things began to shift in my mind. I started to imagine what my life could be without Emily, not as an empty shell but as someone who could rebuild, stronger and wiser. I took up running, joined a local cycling group, and even tried my hand at cooking. Each new experience felt like a small victory, a step further away from the pain she'd caused. I learned to embrace the unknown and the freedom that came with it. Life was messy, and relationships could be fragile, but it also held endless possibilities. I began to understand that betrayal doesn't define me, how I choose to move forward does. So, to anyone reading this who might find themselves in a similar situation, it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to take time for yourself. You're not alone, and you can come out stronger on the other side. Healing takes time, and that's perfectly normal. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm ready to face it, one day at a time.